Shalom, my friends. Welcome to the live stream. So, today we are going to, before I invite people up to the stage to discuss sorry, just a second. Okay. Can everyone, just a second here. I'm trying to make sure everyone can hear me okay? Testing, testing. You guys hear me? Shalom, shalom. Can I get a thumbs up? Anyway, yeah, everyone here? Awesome. Okay, so I was hearing an echo earlier, so I just wanted to make sure. So here's the deal. Before we add people up to the stage, I wanted to, and I'll put the link in, but I'm not going to have anybody come up quite just yet. I wanted to go over a video that One for Israel put out, right? Our favorite, our friends here at One for Israel. They put out a video recently that describes some things, and I wanted to get into it yesterday, regarding Mashiach ben David and Mashiach ben Yosef. So for later in the broadcast, I will put the link in the description or in the box, but just keep in mind we're going to go through this video first before I start inviting people up to the stage. You're not late. I started early. Literally, I just started the stream. So you're good, Phil. Don't worry about it. But here's what we're going to do. We are going to start with a video that One for Israel put out recently that is describing some concepts about Mashiach ben Yosef. And this is an idea that is contextually abused by Christians very, very often. And I wanted to address that. I'm sorry, I'm going to look up real quick here. Regarding Mashiach ben Yosef, yeah, okay, I found I think this is where it's describing it. So we're going to get into some details about what Mashiach ben Yosef is and how Christians often abuse this concept to try to make it fit with Jesus. So just to kind of give the context of discussion. So the video is called, Did the Rabbis Predict Jesus Without Knowing It? So I'm going to share the screen. Can you guys see? Wait, no, I haven't shared it yet. Just a second. Add to stage. Boom, okay. So we're going to go through this video real quick. And yeah, hopefully you guys can see. You guys see the video? I haven't played it yet, but or sorry, no, I shared the wrong tab. Just a second. You guys able to see the tab? I'll play it and you guys let me know.
Two competing narratives. The followers of Jewish Messiah Yeshua and the followers of the rabbis who rejected this Messiah. Both see their roots and authority in the Hebrew scriptures. Discover Yeshua in the rabbinic text. So Oren, what was your question again?
So yeah, I have a small question. Is it true that the rabbinic traditions talks about two kind of messiahs, Messiah son of Joseph and Messiah son of David?
Exactly. But before we even show that, I want to just remind you that when we're talking about rabbinic tradition, the Pharisees, we're talking about a competing narrative to Messianic Judaism, a competing narrative that came much, much later than the New Testament. So it's almost as if the rabbinic Judaism is responding or reacting to the New Testament faith. So you are right. The rabbis did see a Messiah son of Joseph, a figure of Messiah son of Joseph who comes to die in the wars of Israel before Messiah, son of David, comes. And Messiah, son of David, of course, comes as a royal Messiah to rule and as a king.
Yeah, so the question is where that idea came from.
Where did this idea come from? I think the sages, the rabbis, when they read the Old Testament, they couldn't ignore the fact that they saw two types of a Messiah. They saw a Messiah riding on a donkey, a suffering servant. And on the other hand, they saw a royal Messiah, a Messiah that rules, that everybody gives them worship.
So, several things wrong with what Golan Broshi is saying here. The concept of Mashiach ben Yosef is not a concept that was made up by rabbis. And actually, we can go to the source for where it's basically described in the Hebrew Bible. And I was describing this yesterday. When you discuss Mashiach ben Yosef, right, I think it's most important not to cite a Talmudic source for where it comes from, right, when you're having these discussions, but to source where is it in the Hebrew Bible? What is the role of Mashiach ben Yosef? And if we go to and just because, like, so that you guys don't think that I'm making this up or that this isn't consistent with rabbinic Judaism, we're going to go to a Chabad.org explanation of this. And just so that, you guys don't assume that I'm making this up or that this is, Yehuda's thing. So I'm going to remove this tab and I'm going to show stop sharing that screen. And we're going to share the Chabad.org screen here. And you guys can see this screen okay? Oh, wait, no, I didn't add it to the stage. Now you can see it, right? You guys can see, I'm getting my bearings. You guys can all see this? Mashiach ben Yosef. So this is the Chabad position, right? From the Chabad.org website that describes, and this is just the Jewish source in general. So this is by Emmanuel Shochet. Remember that rabbi that served Dr. Brown on a platter? It talks about Mashiach ben Yosef. And what you can see is it's describing that it's described in the Talmud as being from Ephraim, the tribe of Ephraim specifically. So when Christians say that Jesus would be connected to Mashiach ben Yosef, that wouldn't make any sense, because when we say the son of Joseph, we're referring to the tribe through Ephraim, not a person, their father being Joseph or adopted, however it says in the New Testament. So already you see that the concept of Mashiach ben Yosef, according to the rabbinic sources, is completely contrary to what Christians believe about Jesus. Jesus would have to be of the tribe of Ephraim in order to fit that narrative, or at least the tribe of, Ephraim, Manasseh, one of those tribes. Now, it says the principal function ascribed to Mashiach ben Yosef is a political and military nature. He shall wage war against the forces of evil that oppress Israel. More specifically, he will do battle against Edom and the descendants of Esau. Edom is the comprehensive designation of the enemies of Israel and will be crushed through the progeny of Joseph. Thus, it was prophesied of old, the house of Jacob will be a fire, and the house of Joseph a flame, and the house of Esau for stubble. Obadiah chapter 1, verse 18. Okay? The progeny of Esau shall be delivered into the hands of the progeny of Joseph. So if Golan Broshi or any Christian wants to use rabbinic sources to claim that, they believe that Jesus fulfilled the role of Mashiach ben Yosef, you got to ask the question, did Jesus fulfill Obadiah chapter 1, verse 18? There's only one chapter in Obadiah, but all conversations of Mashiach ben Yosef need to start with this, because this is the most explicit reference to Mashiach ben Yosef in the Hebrew Bible. Yes, there's other allusions to this, but when we discuss this with a Christian, where we know Christians are trying to abuse the context of Mashiach ben Yosef and apply it to Jesus, we need to acknowledge that this is the source. And you can ask the Christian, is Edom destroyed? Oh, well, spiritually do it in the second coming. Obviously, that's silly and nonsensical. And also, he's not from the tribe of Ephraim, even according to the New Testament. So right off the bat, we see that when Golan Broshi is using this Mashiach ben Yosef idea to try to validate Christianity, it doesn't make any sense and doesn't have any sort of merit. So we'll go back to the video. I'll speed it up a little bit so we can get through it a little bit quicker, so we can get to maybe some more discussion on this. So we'll stop the screen. Let's share the screen for, where is that tab? Going back to, did the rabbis predict the Messiah without knowing it? Okay, here we go. I'll speed it up a little bit so we get through it quicker. Add to stage, boom. Okay, here we go.
And this is how the idea came of two figures and not one figure that does both. A good example comes from the Talmud. So I'm going to ask you not to read because you're looking at the Hebrew, but please try to explain what does the Talmud says in Tractate Sukkah. We're talking about the Babylonian Talmud. This is rabbinic tradition, hundreds of years after the New Testament. Tractate Sukkah, 52, page 1.
So one of the rabbis says that there is a mourning about the Messiah, son of Joseph, that was killed in the war of Gog and Magog, right? And this is happening before the redemption.
Exactly. This is exactly what the Talmud says in Tractate Sukkah. Messiah, son of Joseph, dies, and then Messiah, son of David, comes and wins the war. And this.
So this is actually one of my favorite references to Mashiach ben Yosef, because the Christian position on Zechariah, because what they're referencing in Sukkah 52a is from Zechariah 12:10. And Zechariah 12:10 is a verse quoted in the New Testament that Christians claim can only refer to Jesus. I've done videos where I have debunked the Christian position on this. And the best way to do this, and I've tried this against Dr. Michael Brown, is simply asking the Christian, is the Messiah son of David from the house of David? That's the criteria that both Jews and Christians can agree upon, right? That the Messiah son of David is, of course, from the house of David. How can a Christian deny that? That's literally how the Messiah is defined. So when we look at Zechariah 12:10, it shouldn't be any surprise to us why the rabbis, none of the rabbis, argue that whoever is being pierced in that verse refers to the Messiah, son of David. Rather, you see that they are referencing only, some of them refer to those who are slain in battle, and then others will say that it refers specifically to Mashiach ben Yosef. Both ideas are fine in Rabbinic Judaism, right? That's not a problem. The problem is for the Christian, when they want to apply the concept of Mashiach ben Yosef to Jesus, it doesn't make any sense to say that Jesus would be described in Zechariah 12:10. So I'll show this is what he's referring to, Sukkah 52a, where it says, so let's look at the verse. It says, and I will pour upon the house of David and upon the inhabitants of Jerusalem a spirit of grace and supplications. And they shall look to me, because, this is the Hebrew where there's a debate with Jews and Christians about et asher dakaru, right? And the asavdu alai, right? So the whole idea is that Christians say, well, this is Jesus being pierced. But here's the question you need to ask the Christian before you get into the discussion about the grammar and all that sort of thing, is ask the Christian, who is inclusive of the house of David, if not the Messiah, son of David? Because remember, the rabbis aren't saying that the Messiah, son of David, is being pierced. Rather, and you can see I highlighted the text, and it says it's from Sukkah 52a, just as Golan Broshi said, it's referring to the Messiah, son of Joseph. And I would challenge a Christian to show me anywhere in the Talmud or any rabbinic commentary that says that Zechariah 12:10 is referring to the Messiah, son of David. You're not going to find it, because the rabbis have a consistent standard on what messianic prophecy is about. And we talked in my last live stream about 2 Samuel chapter 7, verses 12 through 16, that established the precedent for what the Messiah will be, a Davidic king, right? So if we use the Christian interpretation of this, the Messiah, son of David, who is inclusive of the house of David, would be piercing himself, because the Christian wants this to be about Jesus being pierced. Well, why in this one instance with both Jews and Christians agreeing this is a future messianic prophecy, why would all of a sudden the house of David exclude the Messiah, son of David? This is a perfect example of eisegesis, eisegesis. So I would suggest anybody who is debating with a Christian to first ask that question: is the house of David inclusive of the Messiah, son of David? If a Christian says no, then they're clearly not respecting what the core of messianic prophecy is. If you're going to say Jesus is the Messiah, son of David, and then say, well, he's not of the house of David in this verse, that is clearly a messianic future prophecy, right? Zechariah 12 is all about, this is Gog Magog. This is the battle before the Messiah, right? And it says, on that day, the Lord shall protect the inhabitants of Jerusalem. This is verse 8, just 2 verses earlier. And the weakest of them shall be on that day like David, and the house of David shall be like angels, like the angel of the Lord before them. So is the Christian going to say, well, this verse isn't about the Messiah, but then it has all these allusions to the angel of the Lord, which of course Christians obsess on. But no, in this instance in Zechariah 12, the Messiah, son of David, has nothing to do with the house of David. And this is what we call eisegesis, because they do not have a standard for what messianic prophecy is. So we'll go back to the video and we will see some more. All right, we're going to share it. Where am I? Add to stage. Boom. Okay, here we go.
This is maybe the first time in rabbinic tradition that Messiah, son of Joseph, is being reminded. But this tractate ends with something really interesting. There's a debate. Is Messiah, son of Joseph dies, or the evil inclination dies? The sin dies. Who dies there? The rabbis are arguing. And it's amazing that they connected the death of Messiah, son of Joseph with the death of sin. And this is exactly what Yeshua came to do. He came to die for our sin.
Wow, that's interesting. So, it reminds me two prophecies in the Old Testament from Zechariah and Daniel, right?
Yes, exactly. There's a prophecy in Zechariah 9 about a Messiah coming on a donkey, meek and lonely on a donkey. And then that there's a messianic prophecy in Daniel 7, Messiah that comes with the clouds. And it seems, especially in the Talmud, it seems that there's a bit of a contradiction with how the Talmud understood it. And I want you to read in Hebrew and tell us, what does the Talmud says in Tractate Sanhedrin exactly about these two prophecies in the Zechariah 9 and Daniel 7?
So here, there's a principle here that they're abusing and assuming doesn't have any sort of precedent, right? There's a concept in the Torah regarding a prophecy that is a positive prophecy versus a prophecy that is a negative prophecy. So you see, for example, in the Torah, there's a part where Moses is being told, like that the entire nation of Israel is going to be destroyed because of the sin of the golden calf, right? Moses, right, could have just said, okay, cool, God, destroy the nation, and then that's it. But no, Moses actually said, what about your mercy and your compassion, your attribute of mercy, and what would the Egyptians say, if this, and that was when God decided not to destroy the entire nation. So a negative prophecy was averted because Moses used the attribute of mercy that God has to save Israel. So this same principle is being applied to the Messiah coming in the clouds of heaven in Daniel 7 versus the Messiah coming lowly on a donkey, right? So that is like basically the Christians like to pretend like the rabbis are implementing like a choose your own adventure, as though honestly, when the rabbis are making these ideas, because at the end of the day, the rabbis aren't saying the Messiah already came. Christians are. So there's some level of, ambiguity as to what's happening. But I just find it completely disingenuous of Christians to keep emphasizing, oh, is it supposed to be this or this? And the rabbis negate one of the prophecies. That's not what's happening. It's applying a Torah principle. Like, are you going to say that Moses was going against God when God validated the fact that he didn't destroy the nation and Moses invoked the attribute of mercy? to avert that from happening, that's the same principle being applied here that the rabbis are using. So if you want to, say Moses was a false prophet or something based on that nonsense, you can, but I wouldn't advise doing that. How little faith you have. So I believe Moses, I believe God, I believe Zechariah 12, I believe Daniel 7, I believe these prophecies, Zechariah 9, however they happen, but you got to respect that a negative prophecy does not necessarily have to come true if we invoke Hashem's attribute of mercy. So anyway.
It says here that if the nation of Israel will be worthy enough, then the Messiah will come in the clouds.
Like Daniel 7.
Yeah. And if they won't be righteous or worthy enough, then he will come riding on a donkey like a poor guy. Yeah.
And this is what I meant, that there's a kind of a contradiction in the Talmud, because they're saying it's not both of the prophecies will come true. One of them, either Daniel will come true or Zechariah, and it depends on the spiritual situation of Israel.
So once again, what I just said, you want to throw out Moses, right? When he, said to God, don't destroy the nation of Israel, right? That was a negative prophecy that was overturned through Teshuvah. That's all the rabbis are saying. So this is a disingenuous take on what the rabbis are saying by Golan Broshi here. He could be generous and recognize it that way. Instead, he's saying it's a contradiction because he has a bone to pick and he doesn't want to acknowledge that the rabbis actually have a very good point. So,
but only one of the prophecies would come true.
But if I'm correct, the two prophecies are talked about in the New Testament, right?
Exactly. That both the Zechariah 9 and Daniel 7 are quoted in the New Testament. Why? Because the New Testament believes that all the Old Testament was written in with the inspiration of the Holy Spirit. So both of these prophecies will come true. First, he came writing.
So honestly, Rabbinic Judaism doesn't necessarily say that these prophecies both can't come true, right? This is one opinion in the Talmud that is, evaluated and pontificated about. The problem is that the New Testament is putting all its eggs in one basket and claiming that Jesus fulfilled, like, for example, Jesus did not fulfill Daniel 7, right? He didn't come riding in the clouds of heaven, right? Even according to their understanding. That's why they believe that's attributed to the second coming. So quoting from Daniel 7 doesn't do anything for the Christian position when you have no proof that he fulfilled it. So it doesn't, it's just sort of silly for them to even like, oh, we have a better answer. No, you don't. Jesus didn't fulfill. So
being on a donkey, and then he will return with the clouds of heaven.
Okay, so I just want to see that I got it.
And he just admitted that. He said he will return. So he's admitting that even according to his own understanding, Jesus didn't fulfill Daniel 7. So, I mean, riding on a donkey, anybody can do. Riding on the clouds of heaven. And once again, if you look at Daniel 7, it's not describing exclusively the messianic, it's not exclusively about the Messiah. When you look at the subsequent verses about the dream, is that in the dream, it was representative of the Messiah, but the interpretation of the dream in the subsequent verses in Daniel 7:15 through 27, it explains that this is given to the kingdom. The kingdom is given to the high holy ones, which are understood to be the nation of Israel, which of course the Messiah is inclusive of.
According to the oral traditions, the rabbinic traditions, it says that it all depends on the spiritual
situation of Israel,
of the Israel nation. Mm-hmm. And if they will be worthy enough, he will come like a royal king.
In Daniel 7, with the clouds of heaven.
Yeah. And if not, he will come like Zechariah says.
Zechariah 9, on the donkey.
But according to the New Testament, it says that both the prophecies talks about one Messiah that comes two times.
Exactly.
First, like Zechariah, and second, like
Daniel.
Yes,
this is why in rabbinic Judaism, they're waiting for the coming of the Messiah. In Messianic Judaism, we're waiting for the return of the Messiah.
So according to the rabbinic traditions, when the Messiah needs to come.
Yes. Okay. So I want you to not read, but of course read the Hebrew and tell us what is the mathematics, or what is the calculation that the rabbis do in the Talmud in tractate that is called Avodah Zarah. In the Talmud, if you can explain to us, what does it say there?
Yeah, so it says here that the world as we know it will exist how much time? 6,000 years.
6,000 years, and then they divide it to three parts, right?
Yeah, so the first 2,000 years are like chaos. The second 2,000 years is all about the Torah, and the last 2,000 years is of the Messiah.
The world will exist 6,000 years. 2,000 years of chaos, 2,000 years of Torah, 2,000 years of Messiah. Now we will do the calculation and we will see in a minute that it already started. But the tractate ends by saying something went wrong and the Messiah didn't come yet. We don't understand it, but something went wrong, right?
Yeah, because of our sins, something like that, right?
Yes. So now I want to do with you a little bit of mathematics and help me there, and we'll see exactly according to this tractate when was the times of the Messiah supposed to start. Now, according to rabbinic tradition, today in Israel, we are in the year 5,785 to the creation of the world. 5,785. According to the Talmud, the times of the Messiah, the age of the Messiah should have started from the year 4,000, because we have 2,000 years of chaos, 2,000 years of Torah. This is 4,000. So what we have to do is 5,785 minus 4,000, which is
1,785.
exactly. Now the year today is 2025. So what we have to do is 2025 minus 1,785, which equals
240.
240. So according to the Talmud, the Messiah should have already come before, not after the year 240 AD. Can you imagine?
But wait, if
So this is very silly for them to assume, right? Of course, we know that the rabbis understand that doing a calculation, right, for when the Messiah is supposed to come is ill-advised, right? We know this from the book of Daniel. We know that this is, even rabbis say this type of thing, right? So the fact that Christians are relying everything on a calculation of when the Messiah is supposed to come, they're also committing this fallacy by assuming that the Messiah had to come before a particular time, namely the destruction of the second temple, which is just circular reasoning and painting the target around the arrow and saying bullseye. But ultimately, right, we know Hosea chapter 3, verses 4 and 5, which says the Mashiach will come at the end of days, not before the destruction of the second temple, because during the time of the exile, just prior to the coming of the Messiah, we will have no king and we will have no sacrifice. If Jesus is our king and Jesus is our sacrifice, then you can throw out the book of Hosea. Fortunately, we know that's not the case. Jesus is not our king. Jesus is not our sacrifice. And that's how we know the Messiah will come right on time at the end of days, contrary to what these individuals are trying to do by distorting the context of the Talmud. And we know this is what the rabbis believe, because if you look at Hosea 3, verse 5, no rabbis say that this refers to anybody else but the Messiah, son of David, who will come at the end of days.
if it's true, if the rabbis are right, it means that we already passed the time where the time of the Messiah to arrive, it's already here.
Exactly, because even according to the Talmud, the time of the Messiah should have started in the year 240. So this is why the Talmud, in a different place, says, well, we don't know what happened. The Messiah should have come, and now we don't know what went wrong. So it all depends on repentance, because something went wrong.
So you think that maybe we, as the nation of Israel, we missed our Messiah?
So in other words, you're asking me, maybe the Messiah did come when he was supposed to come, and we missed it.
Yeah, exactly.
I think you're right.
So the answer is no. And after this, I'm going to invite people up to the panel. But what I just said, this is the proof that the Messiah is not supposed to come before the destruction of the second temple, and that actually the Messiah is supposed to come at the end of days. So we can go to Hosea chapter 3, just as I said before, and this is my favorite messianic prophecy, as everybody who follows me on this channel knows. And it's because it shows the timeline of the Messiah is not dependent on coming before the destruction of the second temple, but rather it describes specifically, as I just stated, just so that everybody can see and recognize this. It says, "For the children of Israel shall remain for many days, having neither king, nor prince, nor sacrifice, nor pillar, nor ephod, nor teraphim. And afterwards the children of Israel shall return and seek the Lord their God and David their king," not David their God, because God and the Messiah, son of David, are separate, not synonymous, as Christians would have you believe. "And they shall come trembling to the Lord and to his goodness at the end of days." It doesn't say the children of Israel will have their king and they will miss him and they will reject him and they will reject their sacrifice, but they actually have a sacrifice. No, you can throw out the book of Hosea if you want to interpret it according to what Golan Broshi and Christians and everybody, Dr. Brown, Pastor Eduardo, take your pick, any Christian apologetic person. So I am going to invite, so we have Samson in the audience, I will also put the link up for everyone else if they want to join. Here is the link if anyone wants to join. Here we go. Add to stage. Shalom Aleichem. Samson.
Aleichem Shalom. How you doing, Yehuda?
Great. Thanks for your patience. How are you?
No problem. I'm doing all right. Are
Excellent,
these videos, are they putting them out like daily now? Like, what is this?
Oh, One for Israel is very aggressive in their evangelism. So I mean, sure. I mean, they put out stuff a lot, sure.
Nice. I mean, not nice, but yeah. It's kind of insane. I mean, the whole thing about the messianic calculations is, I mean, if you've ever read through Sanhedrin, the last chapter of Sanhedrin, you know that there are, like a dozen different calculations.
Right, Perek, yeah.
One of which includes just that the Messiah was already came in the days of Hiskiyahu. So like,
right, exactly.
Like,
Hillel says that but that's the point, is that they're abusing these concepts and saying like I could make the argument that there was an expectation that the Messiah should have come before the destruction of the first temple. Like, have you ever thought of that before?
The Chasam Sofer says it's in every generation, right? So
exactly. So that I just find it absurd that Christians obsess on, well, the rabbis thought it was supposed to happen before the destruction of the second temple. And then the Talmud also says, like you just said, and also tractate Sanhedrin and Perek Halak, where it actually says that Hiskiyahu HaMelech was the Mashiach, right? And obviously we know that's not true, but that was an opinion that was held. But you almost never hear Christians bring that up,
or the one that where it says actually what it says in that section. It says that there is no Mashiach for Israel. Now it's a minority opinion, but like that God is going to save Israel, right? But it's a minority opinion. But the point is that they're saying there is no Mashiach. So like, how is that square with your messianic expectation? Anyway, it's all just cherry picking. Also, I thought it was funny when they were talking about Zechariah, and once again they said, "Oh, because the rabbis are connecting Mashiach ben Yosef with the death of the evil inclination, and so I guess that means that." And they sort of like, then they do this little sleight of hand where they say, "Oh, the death of the inclination. Oh, that means that sin is being eliminated." With the death of Mashiach ben Yosef. I'm like, wait a second, those are not the same thing, right? Like those are not the same. That was like a very obvious sleight of hand.
Well,
obviously we still have the evil inclination. So if their idea is this is talking about Jesus and that he's ben Yosef and they killed him and that killed the evil inclination. I don't know about you, but you know. I don't know about you, but I'm not so much of a tzaddik, like I'm still missing shachar sometimes, you know what I mean?
Well, that's because you don't have the spirit. Like, that's kind of what it is. This is what I discussed in my debate with Radar Apologetics. There was a question that was asked in the debate regarding, and I kept bringing this up, like the new covenant of Jeremiah, the Christians believe already happened. But if you ask a Christian specifically what Jesus did, right, like you said, destroy the evil inclination, they'll say that he did that, but they have no tangible way of proving that he did. It's really ironic, and it's hilarious to kind of see like the cognitive dissonance and the contradictions that they will come up with to try to get out of it. And they'll say, "Oh, well, I have the covenant of the heart," and I'll say, I say the Shema every day. And it says, and how do I know that? Because my parents taught it to me. But it says under the new covenant, it doesn't say, that's not unique to the new covenant, having a covenant of the heart. What's unique is that no longer will we have to teach it to each other, for we will all know him from the least of us to the greatest. And that's what they are ignoring. They claim that already happened somehow, yet us having this discussion with Messianic Jews, or Jews that are trying to spread the gospel, like Bill Ambrosi, proves that we are not under the new covenant. Otherwise, they wouldn't be trying to evangelize to us,
Right.
because we would all know him.
I think it's I think it's I think it's valuable to just ask the Christian, like, give me a definite prophecy that Jesus for sure fulfilled in his first coming. You know, like, and then it's always going to be something like he rode on a donkey. Okay,
yeah.
like,
Well,
please.
What's going to be something that isn't even necessarily exclusive to the Messiah, like, oh, he had to be betrayed by somebody. Yeah, exactly, like that sort of thing, where it's not, any sort of exclusive. It's painting the target around the arrow and
Right.
saying,
And if there's nothing that is exclusive to the first coming, then why should I accept the first coming? Like,
right. That's why I started. I don't know. Did you see I sort of had a discussion with Lucas yesterday, and I had him at the beginning establish common ground. What is messianic prophecy that is exclusive to the Messiah?
Yeah, I saw it.
Yeah, and
yeah,
so
it's good. It's good.
If you develop mutual criteria at the beginning, then you're going to be able to later, when they bring up, just like, oh, who's the, servant here, and it's like, I don't remember we agreed that Hosea 3:5 was about only the Messiah when it says David their king. Can you show me anywhere where the servant of Isaiah 53 or anywhere in the servant songs is referred to as a king?
Yeah, it's so funny.
How about David?
Yeah, it's so funny because I've seen, like, I think there was a recent live stream with Radar and Ash Mays where they were like pressing someone to prove that the prince at the end of Ezekiel is the same prince as in Ezekiel 37. I forget, 37. And they're like, how do you know? How do you know this prince a few chapters later is the same prince? I'm like, okay, how do you know that suffering servant passage in Isaiah 53 is the Messiah? Like
well, here's the deal.
That's 1,000 times more vague. It's 1,000 times more vague. Right. Meanwhile, you have like the explicit terms being used over here, as opposed to, a totally vague passage, which it's actually not that vague because it's preceded by about 10,000 mentions of the Israel.
For sure.
But
looks like we have a new guest. We have Yosef. Let's see. Add to stage. Shalom Aleichem.
Hi, hello. Good evening.
Good evening, or morning, or afternoon, or whatever it is.
Wherever you are.
Yeah.
Doing good. Doing great. How's it going? So I see you having a debate if Jesus is the Messiah.
Yeah. We're having a discussion.
We're not debating. We're just sort of dunking right now. There are no Christians.
No Christian has accepted the challenge.
Right. Yeah, I'm not surprised. Radar's been running since that debate we've had. So yeah. Dr. Brown.
I think they've had this problem for like 1900 years.
Yeah, sounds about right. Yeah. So what's on your mind, Yosef?
Just in general, like debating anyone out of the Hebrew tradition about biblical stuff is just, they're not in the premise even, so just seems fruitless. It's like you have to start from the bit of Bereshit, and if not, then it's pointless,
Yeah, I'd say it's pointless if they don't respect, like, I literally have been in spaces where Christians will say they believe that because Jesus resurrected from the dead, that means that we can believe everything that Moses said. And I'm saying, like, so you don't believe in, like, the Torah independent of Jesus? It's like sort of saying, like, I don't believe in Newtonian physics, but I believe in the theory of relativity. And because I believe in the theory of relativity and understand the theory of relativity, that's why I believe in Newtonian physics. Like, it's not a perfect analogy, but it's like, if the whole concept of, because I believe in the theory of relativity, I don't believe in the New Testament, but I'm saying, even if the New Testament was true, which it's not, it's still fully dependent on the authenticity of the Tanakh, because the Tanakh is literally the idea where the Messiah comes from. So if you're going to say, this is literally the definition of circular reasoning. If you say, lahavdil, chas v'sholem, Jesus is the Messiah, and then you say, but I don't believe in the Hebrew Bible, then you're basically saying that Jesus
you're a Muslim.
is like, yeah, sure, but like you have to believe in the Hebrew Bible. Yeah, that's also another, but I guess from a Christian perspective, they also believe he's God. So whatever, like the things that they believe about the New Testament as opposed to the Injil, then you're literally painting the target around the arrow and saying bullseye and not even respecting, like you don't know what I think Islam is a great example of that, right? Where they say like Jesus was the Messiah. It's like where you don't believe in the source material for where the Messiah came from. So I think that, they are a pretty good example for that. Yeah. Like what is the criteria for being the Messiah? The Christians said it. So I guess, we can't trust the Jews, but
it's like Muhammad is our prophet. Our prophet of what? A prophet of what? What do you mean you're a prophet? How do I even know that God is real according to you? How do I know anything? How do I know anything about anything?
Oh, I just saw Lucas is here again. Yeah, okay. I'll add Lucas to the stage. Yeah. Shalom, shalom. Good to see you again.
Okay.
How you doing?
Hey, good to see y'all as well. Am I coming through clear?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry. Sorry if you were waiting.
Yeah.
I was
Okay.
distracted. So if you were waiting. Yeah.
Nah, you're good. I was like 2 minutes. But
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I would like to argue that it's actually in Isaiah 53, the servant being talked about also is applied to the Messiah in Isaiah 55, because like we mentioned yesterday, how David, like the name David can apply to the Messiah. It's also in Isaiah 55.
It is. I actually really like that. I think that is a really good passage to let me put it up. Actually, I should probably put it up on Safari.
What's your point? Like, what's your point when you say that?
Well, here's the thing. Would y'all, just quick question, do y'all agree that Isaiah is poetry?
Parts of it is parts of it is.
Yeah.
Parts of it is metaphorical and parts of it is literal. The only way you know whether something is literal,
holy text and prophetic.
The only way you know whether something is metaphorical or literal is through the interpretation of the oral tradition. So otherwise there's no standard.
So here's the deal. Let's look at Isaiah 55 real quick. Here's something interesting that, because I have looked at Isaiah 55 and I do find that to be interesting. Now, one thing that's interesting though about it is that Isaiah 55 traditionally, and maybe you disagree, Lucas, I don't think it's traditionally a part of the servant songs. I believe after Isaiah 53, usually the way it's defined is that Isaiah 55 is sort of like post the servant songs. I don't know. Is that the way you understand it, or am I kind of telling you something that you don't agree with?
Yes, I agree with you. It's post the servant songs, like the 4 servant songs, 42, 40, 49, 50, 53. Like it's post all of those. I do agree with that.
Right, exactly. So knowing that, when we look at it, that's what I actually have used this before as like in contrast to Isaiah 53, which is the passage that many Christians say is exclusively about the Messiah, son of David, and no one else, right? As we talked about yesterday, the reason why I and the rabbis reject that would be only about the Messiah is precisely because, in contrast to Isaiah 55, right, we do have a reference to David here. This is the verse that you're speaking about, where it says, let me share the add to stage. So it says here, incline your ear and come to me, hearken, and you shall be revived, and I will make you an everlasting covenant, the enduring loyalty promised to David, right? So this is referring to, right, a Davidic, covenant, or perhaps even beyond that, right, with the people. But like I said, I would expect if Isaiah 53 were so clearly about only the Messiah son of David and only the Messiah son of David, that we would have a Davidic reference, right, in Isaiah 53 that would indicate a kingly sort of, indication here. But here you see David being mentioned. So I would say this is a little bit more specific than Isaiah 53 based on what we described earlier yesterday in 2 Samuel 7 verses 12 through 16. So I think we are in agreement that this would be more specific messianically, I guess, if that's a word, right? So,
Yes.
yeah.
Okay. Well, here's the thing. I think it actually is referring to David because God is making a covenant with my translation actually says the faithful mercies of David. It's making a covenant because of what the Messiah has done. You go back to Isaiah 49, the servant is actually given as a covenant to the people, as well as in Isaiah 42. So if the servant is given as a covenant and the covenant's related to this servant, this is showing specifically this servant is the Messiah.
Well, what's interesting, though, is once again, I would say exegetically, since we both agree that Hosea 3 verse 5 is referring to the Messiah son of David when it says David, their king, we both agree here that Isaiah 55, like this is the Ebenezer on, it says, an everlasting, this is on the verse we're discussing, right? It says, an everlasting covenant will never expire. The mercy of David, that is like the covenant which I made with David and the kindness which I showed him, promising him my mercy, and I will keep for him evermore. And then he quotes Psalm 89:29. It is also possible that David in this verse, that by David it is meant the Messiah, right? Who is of the family of David. So that's exactly what I just said, right? I said that this is more specific to the Messiah than Isaiah 53 because it mentions David. And you see that Ibn Ezra applies it to David as well as to the Messiah. So what I said is completely consistent. Now, to be honest, I've never looked at this commentary, but I'm telling you, because I have an idea of how exegesis works within the Hebrew Bible, and I know that the rabbis have a system that even you agree with me, Lucas, is pretty ironclad in specifying who the Messiah will be when it says a Davidic king who will rule at the end of days, right? That's why we both agree Hosea 3 verse 5 is only about the Messiah. That's why all the rabbis agree that it's only about the Messiah. But even here, remember, it's talking about a covenant made with David. And yes, it's inclusive of the Messiah, but it's not exclusive to the Messiah because it includes David. Same with Isaiah 53 in a similar sense, because in Isaiah 53, there is no mention of David and there is no mention of a king. That's why it shouldn't be a surprise that the rabbis, that the scripture itself is not indicating exclusivity to the Messiah in Isaiah 53, rather inclusivity of the Messiah when it refers to the servant multiple times as Israel and not a king specifically or David even specifically.
Okay. Well, here's the thing. One, I would say I like Ibn Ezra, his translation of it saying the sure mercy of David, that it's actually based off the loving kindness that David has done. In other parts of the servant literature, it's actually talking about how the Messiah is the one who brings the good news to, or the servant is the one who brings the good news to the people. And if I can ask a quick question, can you scroll down a little bit on the verses?
Yeah.
Okay. So look at verse 5. So you shall summon a nation you did not know, and a nation that you did not know you shall come running to you for the sake of the eternal your God. You see, the nation is coming to this is talking about the other nations. This is talking about the Gentile nations that are coming to David. Actually, in Isaiah, I want to say it's 11, towards the end, it talks about how he will be a standard to the peoples and rally them. Well, you have another passage in Isaiah. Let me find it real quick.
Like I would
Well,
say, it looks like
while you
Zechariah.
find it, could I
Wait.
say something while you find it? I don't know why all this jumping around. If we just focus on Isaiah 55, if we're speaking of Isaiah 55, and without getting into just the literal text in Hebrew, if we read it, it says, "Oy kol tzameh lechu lemayim ve'asher in lo kesef lechu shivru ve'echlu ve'lechu shivru belo kesef ve'lo mechir yain ve'chalav." Right? All the whoever is thirsty go to water, and water is obviously Torah. And if anyone wants to argue with that, they're welcome to. And it's pretty literal, right? I don't think it's very poetic. It's pretty straightforward. Whoever doesn't have money could go get it for free. While the price of wine is at the price of milk. Why wait for when it's later when it gets more expensive? Right. So, and then it speaks of David, the blessings, the chasadim, and the favors of David. And then it says, "I'll make you a witness for nations."
Yeah, well, and that's why I think it's impossible to say that it's not inclusive of David. Yeah.
And it speaks then of the nation, a goy, lo teda. It speaks of the whole nation of Israel. It's speaking the nation of Israel. It's literally of the nation of Israel. Because of a nation that you wouldn't know will call to the it's to the whole nation, right? It's a nation running to a nation. For who? Does it say Jesus? Hold on. Does it say there Jesus? No, it says Yud K Vav K. Your power, Elokecha, your power, and your holiness. Israel, kiperecha. For Israel, which I have made my glory. So I don't know why jump around. And then it goes right away into look for Yud K Vav K when he is close. Call to him. The wicked leave his ways, and God, Yud K Vav K, will have the mercy on him.
Okay. Well, here's the thing.
So, you need your hermeneutics to shove Jesus in there, but whatever. It's not very convincing. It's just pretty, just boring, in my opinion.
Well, here's the thing. How can it be the nation runs to him when in Isaiah 49 it says that the servant is the one being abhorred by the nation of Israel?
Well, here's the deal with Isaiah 49.
49.
Right? Isaiah 49.
There's no contradiction. There could be the Messiah. The Jews have a Messiah. We have the Mashiach. The Mashiach and the nation of Israel is the messengers. As it says, you're the messenger to all nations. And so the Hebrew nation is the messengers of the message from Sinai, unless you have a different nation to give you the Hebrew message from Sinai. Until you find a different nation to give you the Hebrew message from Sinai, then it's the Hebrew nation. And that the fact that we have a Messiah has nothing to do with the nations.
So here's what it says in Isaiah 49, and this is where I think this is like. So I would ask Lucas and anyone where it says, "And God said to me, you are my servant Israel, in whom I will glory." Who is Israel? Who is that referring to?
Who is Israel?
Yeah.
I would say that is referring specifically to the Messiah, and the reason I say that is because it's actually poetically calling the servant being the representative on behalf of Israel. Now, I can explain why I think that if you don't mind.
You could explain it. I think my immediate, response, and I always ask this, is can you show me anywhere else in the Hebrew Bible where the word Israel is used to exclusively refer to the Messiah, son of David, and no one else, other than your example in Isaiah 49:3, according to your interpretation? That's what I would want to know, because I think that would be more convincing to me if you could show me
I would also say for instance, we have precedents in Isaiah, right? Isaiah 23, Isaiah 20, verse 3. Isaiah is called the servant of Hashem. So why shouldn't this just be referring to Isaiah, who is also
Well, especially because
my
it
servant?
uses the pronoun me. It says, God said to me, who is the
Right.
me? Obviously, Isaiah.
Now,
Right.
if
So
you
that's
if I look at Isaiah chapter 20, verse 3, take a look at what he calls Isaiah.
a servant, right? So the idea here is that, yeah, exactly. So like, why can't Isaiah be inclusive, at the very least, of the servant in this verse in Isaiah 49:3? That's what we would ask.
Well, the reason I would say not is because Isaiah was not from the beginning. Can you go up to Isaiah 48 for a little bit?
Yeah.
Well,
All right.
Yeah. What
I
verse?
think it's pretty
from the
explicit
womb
there
I
that
knew
it's
you, like
speaking.
from the womb I knew you and all that,
Oh, well, from the womb I knew you. Well, we can go to Jeremiah
No.
31.
Isaiah 48:12 through 16.
48:12 through 16. Listen, O
Yes.
Jacob, whom I have called, the one I am the first and last, and the last as well. My own hand founded the earth. My right hand spread out the skies. I call unto them. Let them stand up. Assemble, all of you. Listen. He among you foretold these things. He whom God loves shall work the divine against Babylon, and with divine might against Chaldea. I predicted, I called him, I have brought him, and he shall succeed in his mission. Yeah.
Okay, so where it says right here, come near to me, listen to this. This is the first time when someone other than God.
Scroll down, Yehuda. You didn't read the verse he's talking about.
Oh, okay.
Which
Okay.
verse? Which verse is
Verse
this?
16.
Verse 16. Draw near to me and let hear this from the
Where?
beginning.
48:16?
Yeah, I did not speak in secret.
Yeah. Well, why go to 16? You should start maybe at 11, huh?
Yeah, well, actually,
I mean, I don't have a problem.
dadgum, JPS. I didn't know they had it translated this way. From the time,
Yeah, I don't really like JPS as a translation in the first place, but it's fine.
So like I said, you know how I am, right? I want to go with the translation we all agree with. I don't really care to, split hairs over like whether this.
Well,
is
here it's relevant because it's relevant just because I know what he's going to say. In this verse, the first person speaker switches in the middle of the verse, right? Where he says,
Okay,
"Now right.
So
that's
fine.
why
So
it's a cat. There should be here. It's good actually. It's lowercase where it says has sent me, right?
So
And then
and as you know, like this is a slightly different. So the assumption being made here, right, is something separate from what's going on, right? If we're using kind of like an Occam's razor concept here, right? Who is the servant? It says it's Israel, right? It says like what is more convincing, right? That who is the me and the assumption that the Messiah must be God, or the idea that it explicitly says the servant is Israel. And there's no other instance in the Hebrew Bible that I've ever seen a Christian give me where Israel is described as only the Messiah, son of David, and no one else, other than Isaiah 49:3.
Let me just clarify because we didn't actually even raise the problem, right? So according to this translation, which is good, the last portion of the verse, sorry, you just scrolled down. The last portion of the verse where it says has sent me, so Isaiah switches to being the speaker again, while the first three sentences there are God speaking. Now the Christian will typically say me should be capitalized in that fourth sentence, and that shouldn't be in quotation marks. That should all be one speaker. I think that's what Lucas is getting at. Lucas, am I correct?
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
So,
actually, great.
So that's where Lucas is coming from. So Lucas, the rabbinic punctualization, vowelization of this verse, the first three statements are spoken by God, although sometimes the first statement is actually also considered to be Isaiah. And then the last statement is a quote from God. Is back to Isaiah speaking, I should say. Sorry. The first three statements or the middle two statements are God speaking, and then goes back to Isaiah.
So actually,
and we see this in other places where like mid-verse and also mid-chapter, we switch from a speaker without any interruption. We switch from a speaker.
So
going from
Samson,
God
I'm
to
going to show
Isaiah.
you. I'm going to give an example. I think you're going to like this example because I think we both discussed this example before in Isaiah chapter 7, right? So we can use the same prophet who's doing a similar thing, and we can ask ourselves
Yeah.
the question that Lucas was asking, where we go to add to stage here, and then we see in Isaiah 7, right? If I'm using that same argument of who's speaking, Isaiah or God, and then say, well, it must be that, God is saying that, the servant is himself, right? You see in Isaiah 7 where it says God is speaking here, right? When you look at the beginning of the chapter, you guys can all see this, right?
Yes.
So it says, it's describing these prophecies that, this is the infamous Isaiah 7:14. But God said to Isaiah, so God is the speaker here, go out with your son and, Shar Yashuv and meet with Achaz and say to him, so God is still the speaker, be firm, and then he says about Rezin and the Armenians. And so God is still the speaker. We will march against Judah. We will conquer it. We will set up the son of Tabil. Thus said my sovereign God. So God is still the speaker. It shall not succeed. It shall not come to pass. For the chief city of Aram is Damascus. So God is still Damascus is Rezin. And the city of Ephraim is, so in another 65 years, Ephraim shall be shattered in people. And if you do not believe, for you cannot be trusted. So God is still the speaker. But then it says, God further spoke to Ahaz, God still the speaker, ask for a sign from the eternal your God, anywhere down to Sheol and up to the sky. Interesting. So who's speaking here, God or Isaiah? And it says, but Ahaz replied, I will not ask, I will not test God. Now it doesn't say that God stopped speaking here, right? But then it says, listen, house of David. And then it has to put Isaiah in brackets because it is ambiguous, right? Who is speaking, because it doesn't say that Isaiah is the speaker. You understand? So if I use the same argument that you are using, then I would have to say Isaiah, Chas v'shalom lahadil, would be synonymous with Hashem because it doesn't specify in the text that Isaiah is the speaker.
Yehuda, can you pull up Jeremiah 31 real quick?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm just gonna make it an even more explicit example of this that I think even Lucas will agree with.
Okay, Jeremiah 31. Do you want me to do Sepharia? What translation?
I don't care. It doesn't matter. In this case, it probably won't matter. I think most translations have it the same, including the Christian ones.
Okay, I'll stop sharing that and I'll go to. I think I'm getting the hang of this sharing thing a little bit. Okay, share screen. Jeremiah 31. Share. And boom. You guys all see it?
So take a look at verse 2.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, go down. Verse 3. Verse 3.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually don't like this translation because they remove the pronouns.
Okay, you want me to go to?
So in verse 3, I'm just gonna read it from basically Barachok Hashem nira li, right? So the beginning of that verse is from a distance or from long ago. It's either Rachok means distant. From a distance, God appeared to me, right? And then in the same verse, what does it say? V'ahavat olam ahavticha. It's hard to read from here. It's a small screen. But anyway, the point is, eternal love I conceive for you then, therefore I continue my grace to you. So we see in the middle of that verse, without any indication of change, the first person speaker switches from me being Jeremiah to me being God. Do you see that, Lucas?
Right, Lee in Hebrew is usually like a possessive to me. Like that's the way it's understood.
Yeah,
like,
I would pull up an accurate translation because this is why I hate JPS.
But I can show. I know it's not the best translation, but I'm saying, look what I did. I clicked on the word Lee. This is why Sepharia can usually, even when it doesn't give the best translations, you see it says inflected person pronoun meaning to me. You see?
Yeah.
So you can see, in case Lucas is confused, like, well, why does it say God was revealed long ago and it doesn't say to me? Because when you look at the word isolated by itself, it means I'm just showing him in case he's
Yeah.
like not
Um,
trusting the translation. You see?
Yeah, the JPS here. I think what they did is they didn't want people to be confused by this. You know what? How about we pull up? How about we pull up like KJV or something? Do you accept the KJV, Lucas?
Yes.
Okay.
How
we'll look
about
up
how we pull up
KJV.
KJV?
Okay, Jeremiah 31, KJV. Okay.
Because I think actually KJV gets it right better than JPS in this case. Yeah.
Okay.
I
That
really
happens.
dislike
Like I said,
JPS.
What's
like I
JPS?
said,
Is
I
that
like
Chabad or something?
It's
no Jewish
conservative. They're
publications.
conservative.
It's more like
Okay.
academic, like whatever. Like they like to,
Whatever.
I don't know, like academics like it. I don't know why.
Academic?
I don't know.
Well-
I see it in academic circles more often than I see it in.
The latest edition of it like removed I think it was JPS that like removed masculine pronouns for God or
Oh
something
God. Oh
um
goodness.
to make it gender neutral. I think
That's
that was
absurd. Okay.
I think that was JPS. I don't recall exactly, but
Okay. Sorry. Give me a second to
And what I
stop
find
sharing.
interesting is if we go to Isaiah 41, right? 8, it says, "And you, Israel, my servant Jacob, which I have chosen, the seed of Abraham, my beloved." And basically, if you just read from Isaiah 40 through 42, 3, it's, Christianity has no legs to stand on. It's just,
You guys can see the KJV.
it's just absurdity.
yeah, Lucas, so you can see verse 3 that here they translated correctly. They translated better than JPS, unfortunately. But you can see the Lord has appeared unto me. Yea, I have loved thee with an everlasting love, therefore with loving kindness have I drawn thee. Right. And notice KJV will always, well, I guess they don't always here, but in some editions they'll like capitalize it to make it clear who I and me and you are. But the point is that that there's an implicit change of speaker here without any indication. So similarly, it's in that verse in Isaiah, we have an implicit change of speaker, and so the person who is from the beginning is usually interpreted to be God, not Isaiah. So that's how we would say why Israel in Isaiah 49 could refer to Isaiah, and I think a lot of commentaries do say that's the case.
Yes. Well, that's
Well-
the shot. Yeah.
You have problems with it referring to Isaiah because Isaiah keeps identifying himself with Israel as sinful. He keeps identifying himself as that we are the ones who sinned. And
Okay,
because-
but Isaiah also contradicts that when he says your entire nation is righteous in chapter 60.
60? Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah.
Also
all
40,
your
it said,
people-
"Nachamu, nachamu, nachamu ami yomar alechem, dabru al lev Yerushalayim, יקברו עליה, כי מלאה צבאה, כי נרצה עוונה, כי לקחה מיד אדוני כפליים בכל חטאותיה."
Famous
It's-
Haftarah from last Shabbat. Yeah.
So it took double of its punishment for anything it's ever transgression, right? And also as being the moral compass and the nation of delivering the message from Sinai, the immorality within Jacob, within the vast majority of the population is just a reflection of the nations. It's what Rabbi Yehuda Levi says, Yisrael ba'amim kelev baguf. It's a whole
You have to
organism. It works
translate.
together.
yeah, I don't know Hebrew, so
You got to translate for Lucas.
Israel in the nations. Israel in the nations is like the heart in the body. It's one of the it's a functioning part of the
Organ.
nations organ. It's an organ. You have a full body. All the nations make the body, and the message from Sinai carries the heart of the body. But it's so when you see what the fact that the prophets there, like Isaiah, many of the prophets are saying, "Oh, Israel, you're so sinful," is because they have who's listening to them, and that's they're not talking about the good deeds. The prophets are about rebuking, because there's a message, a moral message for
Okay.
humanity to be carried through history.
Well,
So
Yeah. So what do you have to say, Lucas? Yeah, I want to hear you.
I have a quick question to that. Are you saying that Israel is the body?
no, the nations are the body.
The
He's
nations
saying
of the body?
Israel's like the heart, like
This is all a metaphor. We're speaking metaphorically.
right. This is all like metaphorical.
Well,
So look, let's go straight to Isaiah 49:3, just to kind of like this is. I don't like to get caught up because I think it gets confusing for especially for Lucas when like we're describing things in like kind of like more midrashic sense. Like if we
But I
go
think it's
to
not
just
midrashic. If you talk of it's just in Psalms, right? It talks a lot about
but
that
sure.
you would bring them, tell all the nations about Yud Ke Vav Ke, tell the nations about the glory of the Almighty Creator.
Yeah. No, you're right.
That's
disagree
the
with what you're
message of
saying.
it's not
Yeah.
very midrashic. It's pretty
Right.
simplistic.
It's pretty push-it. Yeah. But like, let's go to the source where we don't have to like. So it says, he said to me, right?
I'm
You
sure
guys
there's
can see this.
sources also, but
Right, well, but here's the chronology. Here's why I love Isaiah 49:3-6 so much, because it says, he said to me, who at least from the Jewish understanding, we understand me to be Isaiah. And then it says, you are my servant Israel, in whom I will glory. Right. So from what we understand, there's no reason. Now, Lucas's contention with this is that he claims that Israel, when it says Israel, that Isaiah is including himself with the sinners. The issue with this here is that he's making the assumption, I believe Lucas is making the assumption that the servant must be completely sinless. And even when we look at Isaiah 53, that's not explicit. It might say that he had done no wrong, but why is the assumption that it had done no wrong ever in his entire life? Right? That's the eisegesis that Christians bring to the table when they discuss Isaiah 53. And I think when we see that Isaiah himself is distinguished, right, as a prophet, what makes Isaiah unique? Why are we listening to the message of Isaiah if he is just as deceitful as the rest of any sinner in Israel? Like, Lucas, do we agree that Isaiah has a certain level of distinction as a prophet that would make him a part of the righteous remnant of Israel relative to any, other, like, let's say, like a random sinner in his generation?
Yes,
Do we agree on that?
I would say Isaiah is part of the righteous remnant, but one thing is here's why I would say Isaiah 53, the servant has to be sinless, because the servant has to intercede on behalf of the people. He has to intercede on behalf of the people who did the transgressions. That's what it says.
What's your basis for that? Sorry, what's your basis for that?
No, wait. Let me. I want to handle this because I have the perfect answer for this. Why can't Israel intercede for the sins, like the remnant, righteous remnant, intercede for the sins of the rest of Israel? Why is that a problem?
Because Isaiah 59 doesn't allow a man to be the one interceding.
What if I showed you a verse in the Hebrew Bible that shows Ezekiel interceding for the sins of other Israelites and Judahites?
No. Can you please go to Isaiah 59 first, though?
What's in Isaiah 59?
Lucas, can you just define what you mean by intercede? I'm simple of speech. Maybe I don't understand what you mean by that.
So in intercede, it's given the idea of a priest. Now, Christians believe, and I believe the Tanakh teaches this, is that the Messiah will be a king priest. He's having to intercede on behalf of the people.
I apologize. In 15 minutes, I'm going to have to go. I just wanted to let you guys know, so I'll have to shut the stream down. So,
but can you just explain what intercede means? Like, that word is being used, and I don't understand what you mean by it. I know what it means generally.
Which verse are you looking at in 59, though?
Isaiah 59, verse. Hold on.
I'm just going to say, well, verse 1 says, "My hand is not short of redemption, and my ear is not heavy from to hear." And that's Yud-Ke Vav-Ke, the Almighty. That's 59:1.
Isaiah 59:16, and he saw that there was.
And God saw there was nobody else gazing long, but no one intervened. And then God's own arm did win triumph, and the victorious right hand gave support. There it is.
Yes. So my translation, it's the New American Standard, 1995. It says that there is no man, that it can't just be some person. And if you scroll up a little bit, Isaiah keeps including himself as we're the ones who sinned. We're the ones who went against God.
So when Isaiah, for example, like Daniel, when he prays in Daniel chapter 9, he includes himself as a part of the rest of the nation of sinners. But when you look in Ezekiel chapter 14, verse 14, Daniel is described as righteous. And I think, how do these ideas, exist in the same space? Well, yes, Daniel is a part of the righteous remnant, as it explicitly states in Ezekiel chapter 14, verse 14, but he's also a part of a nation that isn't at a point where it is fully righteous. So he includes himself in that sense, not saying that he is on the same level, right? In terms of that, he's obviously a prophet. He obviously has a certain level of kedusha, and he is distinguished in that way. So I guess the main issue that I see with your interpretation, Lucas, is that it doesn't leave room for what the righteous remnant is. Because if Isaiah is a part of the righteous remnant, but you're not allowing him to be righteous, and you're saying he's just like anybody else, then I don't know how you define the righteous remnant. You're basically saying the righteous remnant doesn't exist.
So let me explain why Daniel would be called righteous. He's called righteous actually because of his faith in God, his faith in ultimately the Messiah. Paul talks about this in Romans, but Paul gets it from Genesis 15:6, where Abraham
is righteous because of his faith. But the question is, was he righteous because of his faith that Jesus died for his sins on a cross? Or was he righteous because he believed God that he was going to be given the land of Israel after his, descendants will be, that his descendants will be, as plentiful as the stars in the sky. That's the issue, is that I don't have an issue with Abraham being righteous because of his faith. I have an issue with somebody claiming that the only way to receive righteousness or to be, saved is to believe that Jesus died for your sins on the cross. That would be the burden of proof on the Christian to demonstrate. But back to the point about Ezekiel, right?
I just want to get an understanding of what Lucas is saying, because I'm just, Lucas, how do you understand Isaiah calling the entire nation of Israel righteous in Isaiah 60:21?
Let me look at it real quick.
Well, just to make the point that I'm trying to make in Ezekiel, it says explicitly that Ezekiel will bear the iniquity of Israel and Judah. It says you will lay on your side for 90 days, and it says you shall bear the punishment of the house of Israel. And then it says you will do this, you'll complete it, you'll lie another 40 days on your right side, and you will bear the punishment of the house of Judah. So here you have, in this context, another man suffering for the sins of Israel, a prophet, Ezekiel. So that's how I understand Isaiah 49:3-6. Just as Ezekiel was able to suffer for the sins of his fellow Israelites and make atonement that way, so too Isaiah is also able to do that. And that's why he can be inclusive of the servant of Isaiah 49, who is called Israel. So that principle can be applied, whether or not Isaiah sinned or not. He's still a part of the righteous remnant. We all agree on that. So if Ezekiel is able to suffer for the sins of other people while still being a quote unquote sinner, but also being a part of the righteous remnant, call the Homer, why can't Isaiah do that? That's the argument.
Well, I'll have to look at that a little more, but to answer Samson's question, what I think of Isaiah 60:21 is that this is actually something future that hasn't happened yet, that this is going to happen later on. This actually,
Yeah, we agree. What's the issue though?
No, hang on.
So
Let me just. But the plain language of
obviously
the
it's in the
verse.
future, but that's not
Hang,
nobody's arguing that.
hang on. The
nobody's arguing that.
the plain language of of that verse. I agree. It says shall inherit in the future, but the part which says all your nation are righteous is in the present tense. So that seems to apply even now, wouldn't you? Wouldn't you agree?
well, the context of it is they keep getting told that they're being in their what's the word I'm looking for? They keep sinning, they keep rebelling.
No, the context says, excuse me,
Hang on, let him speak.
verse,
Let him speak.
but well, that's the problem when people say the context and then you don't correct them, then they get to say the wrong thing. The context of the verse right before is that your sun and your moon will not go down on you. You will not have more days of suffering. You will be the light to the nations, and you will be a nation of all righteous that forever will inherit the land and the fruit of my tree, the glory of my hands to be glorified.
Yosef, he doesn't disagree with that point.
Yeah,
I'm
but
just trying to zero in on
He said that it's about sinning and whatnot. It's not. It's literally the opposite.
I just like to hear what he says in response.
well, it's looking to the
Yeah.
future.
Yes.
Now,
yeah.
you see, I know Yehuda brought up before, Zephaniah 3, is that the passage that says that
Zephaniah 3:13. Yeah. That says.
Yeah. That's talking about the future as well, that when they will be sinless people, and that's what Isaiah 60 is talking about. But the
No,
reason
it does that nothing to say. It doesn't say anything about sinless. Let me correct you. The language is they'll all be righteous. Righteous has nothing to do with sinless. You're just mixing. You're not understanding what things mean. Like the words in Hebrew are very, very important.
Well, that is
So
the
so when you say that someone's righteous, they could be righteous as soon as they repented,
right,
and they're
you
fully
can be
righteous. As soon as God forgives you and you're fully repentant, you're righteous.
So that comes from Proverbs, actually. We have a pasuk that proves that. The righteous man falls 7 times and gets up, but the wicked stumble in calamity. So there is proof from Scripture that you can still be righteous and have sinned before, right? You can stumble and still ultimately be righteous. So that's the paradigm that Christianity doesn't accept, that is biblical, that you are able to overcome, right, your Yetzer Hara, your sin, through repentance and following Torah, right? That's where we're having the machloket. That's where we're having the disagreement, where the paradigm that Lucas comes from is you sin once, you're damned to hell, you have no redemption aside from Jesus, right? Whereas in the Torah, it doesn't prescribe Jesus as the sole solution to, getting your sins forgiven, right? That's why when I did my debate with Radar Apologetics, I focused on Hebrews 9:22, because I believe that is the core flaw in Christian theology, is claiming that you're a sinner, you need Jesus to die for your sins. And if you don't accept that, then you have zero chance of salvation. And I don't believe that that is a biblical concept that can be validated through the Hebrew Bible. But yeah, sorry. What did you want to say, Lucas?
No, you're good. Isaiah 60, what I would say is it's looking towards the future when the people of Israel will be righteous. And the reason I say righteous as in sinless is because Isaiah says in Isaiah 64:6 that their righteousness are nothing but filthy rags. They're not good enough. Their righteousness is nothing compared to God's righteousness. But here's what happens because of what the suffering servant has done. Isaiah 54:17 says, this is the inheritance of the servants of the Lord, and this is their this is the inheritance
right, in the plural.
of the
Interesting,
Lord,
right?
and their righteousness from me.
Right. Yeah, I find it interesting in Isaiah 54 that you just quoted that it refers to the servants in the plural, and it's so close to the proximity of Isaiah 53. So yeah, and that's why I understand all of that to refer not just to the Messiah, but also to the rest of Israel. And you see the progression, Isaiah 49:3, where it says, "You are my servant Israel, in whom I will glory." And then it says, "I have thought, I have labored in vain, I have spent my strength for empty breath, but my case rested with God, and my recompense is in the hands of God." So it's saying that it's going to be difficult for the remnant of Israel to ultimately succeed in the mission, right? That there's going to be resistance from the rest of Israel, it says, and the nations, because the subsequent verses say, "And now God has resolved, the one who has formed me in the womb," right, of his service, right? It says the one to bring back Jacob and to restore Israel, that I have been honored in the sight of God, and God was my strength, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it says, you know, that, and God has said, "It is too little that you should be my servant, that I should raise up the tribes of Jacob and restore the survivors of Israel, and I will make you a light of nations, so that my salvation may reach the ends of the earth." So it's saying first, God is going to bring back the rest of Israel through his servant, who is understood to be the remnant, right? First, they're going to be struggling to bring back the rest of Israel. And then once Israel is restored, then Israel will serve as a light to the nations. That's the chronology, not Israel's going to miss our Messiah, and then we're going to, have to walk back with our tail between our legs and be like, the Gentiles got it right. We should have believed in Jesus. The chronology doesn't seem to indicate that. That's where I stand on. That's why I love Isaiah 49:3-6, is that it gives that same chronology as Zechariah chapter 8, which says that the Gentiles will come to the Jews for truth at the end of days, when it says 10 Gentiles of the nations will grab on the skirt of a Jew. So that's why I have a hard time accepting the idea that the Jews are wrong in waiting for the future Messiah, and we should really be listening. I'm not trying to be condescending, or I know it can come off that way. I'm just trying to honestly read the scriptures of the Hebrew Bible in the most honest way possible. And I don't see a compelling argument that the Jews are on the whole wrong, and that it's really the Gentiles that have the truth, when you have that chronology over and over again, that Israel will be saved first. Even in Zechariah 12, it says that Judah will be saved first. It doesn't
He tells
say,
his words to Jacob, his statutes to Israel. He did not do so to any nation.
so
Psalms
that's
146.
yeah,
Psalms
I know we're getting close
147.
to the end. I want to look, Lucas, if you want to have the final word, you can go for it. But I have to go in like 3 minutes. But yeah, you can.
Yeah, also pretty sure 49, if you just keep reading, it's talking about the establishment of the state of Israel and making settlements.
I mean, Zechariah 12 is
Isaiah 49 8 is pretty explicit about making settling settlements. It's it's nice. It uses the word lanchil nachalot.
interesting. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, Lucas, I guess you can add the last word, and then I'll end the stream.
Well, I guess one thing I would say is that there's in the beginning of 48, it actually talks about God not cutting off Israel because of his for his sake, that he's not going to cut him off because of he is faithful to the covenant of Israel's fathers, faithful to the covenant of Abraham. So he's not going to cut him off. Well, when you get to Isaiah 53, how can the servant still be Israel if he says he's not going to cut him off?
Say that one more time.
So in the beginning of Isaiah 48, let me find where it is again.
And I only have, just say it quick, because we have to go in I have to go in like 2 minutes, but
Okay. You can look at Isaiah 48. It says he's a rebel from birth. It says that Israel's a rebel from birth. It says that he's not cutting him off for his namesake. Well, it keeps giving these identifications of Israel. You get to 49, and all of a sudden the servant is just somehow the exact opposite of it.
Well, let's just slow down, because in
we only have
48:11 says, "I would not give my glory to anyone else," and that's basically Jesus. So, and it says, "Listen to me, Israel, Jacob, and all the calling my name. I am the first, I am the last." There's no place for Christianity here. I'm sorry to tell you.
I guess the idea is, where is the remnant in all of this? That's the main issue, is that if
The
Isaiah
remnant
isn't a part
is
of the righteous remnant, I'm saying if Isaiah isn't a part of the righteous remnant, then I feel like it's a contradiction from the Christian perspective to say, well, he's a part of the remnant, but actually only Jesus is a part of the remnant. And we don't have any prescription in the Hebrew Bible that says that Jesus is the only way to atone for sin, whether it be faith in, faith that Abraham had. That what I would say that is, where is the definitive proof that we would need Jesus' death on the cross in order for us to be saved, when Hashem gives us so many, other ways to deal with sin, aside from just belief? Or I don't really see where it says that we have to believe that Jesus died for our sins on a cross at all. But like, to say that it's the only way, that's pretty chutzpahdik in my mind. But anyway, I have to end the stream now. Shalom Aleichem. Thank you for all your participation, and we'll see you again soon. Thank you all. Please like, share, and subscribe, everybody, if you haven't already. And thank you.
All right, it's been good seeing y'all.
okay. Take care.
Y'all too.